We're live.
Hey, Breaking Brown family, it's Yvette Carnell coming to you again live as we do every Monday and Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight we have a lot to talk about and we have a special guest that we're going to get on the line in a few minutes. But as usual, I like to give you a minute to kind of get yourself together, do whatever you have to do to get yourself situated. If you want to get yourself something to drink, if you want to get yourself something to eat, whatever you need to do to get yourself okay, I want you to do that, take care of that, and all of that stuff. So I'm going to give you all a moment, as I always do, to take care of that. Put the baby to bed, get yourself a drink, get yourself some food. If I caught you off guard, you forgot, take care of that. I'm going to let you all know tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about HBCUs. And we're gonna do a little housekeeping on that. We have a special guest tonight, so we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna introduce that. But I'm gonna give you a moment before I get to that.
Tell the children, gather all in. We're gonna learn something today.
We're gonna learn something today about HBCUs and what all that stuff means, and what Trump might mean, what it might not mean to us in terms of putting money in black people's pockets. We're gonna have, a school is in session kind of day.
Now, is this gonna be the same news they get in other places?
No, never. Move this over just a little bit. It's blocking that. I'm getting all this stuff situated. It's blocking the fan. Yes. So everybody, take your time. I want to give, what you're going to hear today is probably something that you have not been hearing. Good evening, Rodney. Good evening, Darjay. Is that your name or his name? Caesar, hey, what's up?
So what do people usually hear? Trump, black people?
Yeah, either Trump is awful or Trump is great, right?
So if you turn on your cable news, what are you going to hear?
Yeah, you're going to hear that like Trump is awful, like he's the devil, he's a fascist. If you turn on like Breitbart, you're going to hear like he's the next best thing. So what we want to try to do is tell you the consequence of what happened today and what it might mean. Not necessarily what it's going to mean, but what it might mean for all of us. So I'm gonna give people a few more time to kind of come in. While you're here, share this to other pages. If you're watching on YouTube, I want you to share it as well. If tweeting is something that you're into, I want you to tweet. If you can subscribe, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, please take a moment while we're doing housekeeping, getting everybody time to flow in here. Please take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Donate Brown to donate. You can go subscribe to Brown. You can do all of that stuff. You can go to breakingbrown.com and subscribe for a monthly donation to keep us going and keep us moving here. So that takes care of that. Now, what we're going to do right now is we're going to discuss HBCUs, because what we've been hearing a lot of stuff. But before I get to HBCUs, I have to address Trump's State of the Union. I'm not going to spend much time addressing it. Not much time addressing it, because there were only two important things that came out of it for me. Number one was immigration. Number two was infrastructure. Those were two very important points. But other than that, it is what it is. I'm not as excited as Van Jones, but hey, it was an improvement from what we normally see with Trump, and so it is what it is. Now, we did see some theatrics in terms of what we saw after the State of the Union. We saw who? Let's go, Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters was very interesting in terms of she decided that she was not going to do that she was not going to do the State of the Union. She is in protest. Apparently, she is going to protest during her entire time during the entire time that Trump is there.
She might lose her seat if she.
I don't think she's concerned, because we will be okay with you protesting. You protesting seems to be an okay thing with us. We seem all right with that. Protest yourself to death.
A lot of Latinos moving into her district
and might take her over, but she's not concerned. She's protesting Trump, and she hopes that will endear her to her base of black people and Latinos, because all we like to do is have a spectacle sometimes. Just act a fool and we are there with you. So that's what she did. That's what the exciting thing that Maxine Waters did. Now let's talk about something else. There was some other tomfoolery in black news that we should address as well. We should address the tomfoolery in black news so that you know who not to support going forward. One of the people who had some other tomfoolery going on was your own New York Times writer, a scribbler as I call him, Charles Blow. Charles Blow was also acting up, telling HBCU presidents and stuff that we looked the fool. We look crazy because we out there with Trump taking a photo op. How dare we? How dare we being used? He put "used" in all caps. We are being used as a photo op. Oh, how dare you? Why would you do such a thing? You know, Charles Blow is known for his theatrics. Let's just put that out there.
He's very eloquent.
He's very known for his
He's very eloquent, very non-threatening, good with the data.
He's very known for theatrics. I remember he got on there and he was protesting somebody from Trump administration. He said, "Who is this man talking to me? Who is this man? Who does he think he is? I am from the Times, a paper of record. This is the paper of record. Who does he think he is talking to me?" So he's known for his theatrics. But what we're going to do today, we're not going to do theatrics today. Today, we're not going to do theatrics. We're going to do something very important. And we're going to discuss whether or not Trump's executive order was his executive order, was it actually something real?
Yeah.
Was it actually something real, or was it just BS? That's something that we're going to discuss. Because it's something that we have to discuss. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We're going to discuss this. But one thing I will say when I'm talking about Charles Blow, I'm saying he graduated from an HBCU. But he has kids in Mulberry, Yale, and Columbia. You don't have any skin in this game right now. Okay? And I'm not saying whether or not it is or is not. I'm not saying whether or not it is or is not a photo op. But it might matter, and just not in terms of Trump. It might matter down the line for another president who takes over after Trump. Okay? But I'm just tired of Charles Blow is a man who he's posting about his daughter and she's fencing all the time. Most black kids ain't fencing. Most black kids who go to HBCUs, underfunded HBCUs, they don't have money. Right? This disproportionately poor group of students. So there is a certain need. They don't have you as a father. And so sometimes we have to show up. Well, you don't have to show up, Charles Blow, because you work for the New York Times. You don't have to show up. You can stunt. You can be a diva on the news, on CNN, and people will think that's actually insightful when there's nothing insightful about it at all. There's nothing insightful about what you did. There's nothing insightful about how you behave. There's nothing insightful about these childish tweets. You're not a teenager. Instead of doing this, why don't you dig into the data about HBCUs and the needs of HBCUs and how Trump can make some of that happen? I don't know if he is or isn't, but you as a person who's supposed to care about HBCUs should be digging in deep and pushing him to keep his word and pushing him to do what he said he was going to do instead of just writing little furious tweets and then running around talking about, well, I'm in Mardi Gras right now. I ain't got time for this. I'm at Mardi Gras. Come on, man. Who do you think you are? Like, who do you think? How disrespectful and disengaging. How awful is that to treat black people like that, to treat black kids like that? As if we have any choice but to show up for the photo op, even if it's just a photo op. As if we have a choice to show up. No endowments, no money. You act like we have a choice whether or not to show up. It doesn't mean you're gonna hang your hat on everything. And I think based on what I did read, I would have been hopeful. I wish there had been more time for people to actually make their case. That was the guy from Dillard, the president of Dillard, said that he didn't really have time to make the case that he wanted to make. But I kind of questioned him a little bit too, because he named his baby, his baby has a middle name, Barack. You not necessarily the sharpest knife in the drawer. If you thought, that was some kind, that was just real weird. That's just real strange. So, I think that's quite odd. I think that's quite odd. I don't know what that means. Let me know, Armin, when I call it calls in. Okay.
We're good.
Well, I want to introduce you all to somebody I came across, I saw his post a few weeks ago when Trump first started floating the idea of doing something for HBCUs. And he said something that I thought was actually kind of brilliant. His name is Jarrell Blakely, and he came in he was an intern, and he was in the White House HBCU initiative, under, I think it was George W. Bush, and he was talking about his experience there and what moving the HBCU initiative, from the White House might mean So what we're talking about, because that's what Trump's executive order did. It moved it from the Department of Ed to the White House. And everybody's saying that's symbolic. Well, maybe, but maybe not. And there's a reason why, that might matter. So one of the perks of being here and being at Breaking Brown is that we get to meet other brilliant black people. So what I want to kind of do is bring on Jarrell Blakely and have him talk about his experience, have us learn something about what this might mean, as opposed to just listening to people rant.
Right.
So.
Right. All right. Let's get Jarrell on the phone because we're actually going to learn something today.
Yeah. Let's try to learn something.
Let's try to figure out what this means as opposed to just talking points.
Yeah. Let's not rant. We're not kids.
All right. Hold on. Are you plugged in?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Yvette. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what I know about the situation and shine some light on why Trump's movement around black colleges may be a good thing. So I really appreciate your advocacy. I really appreciate the forum you provide for your listeners, and I'm excited about having this conversation. Now, I want to start off by saying that the White House initiative on black colleges is really a misnomer because it really has never been a White House initiative. It's generally been housed in the U.S. Department of Education. And there's actually a number of different White House initiatives around education. There's generally been a White House initiative on tribal colleges. There's generally been a White House initiative around Asian and Pacific Islander serving institutions, as well as a White House initiative around Hispanic serving institutions, as well as a HBCU initiative.
Okay.
And so, but people have generally kind of had this idea that it was the White House. And it wasn't. I remember being in a advisory board meeting while an intern, while attending Howard University. And it was really fascinating because the president of Spelman came to the board meeting and was looking around and saying, well, when are we going to actually advise the president? And the whole room started laughing. And the president of St. Augustine's literally said, honey, we don't do that here. There's never been a president in this capacity as an advisory board member. And that's generally been the history of the agency.
So what do people use it for?
And so
what do people use? Yeah, why have one then? What do people use it for? A stepping stone? Or what's the big deal about being on a commission?
Irvy's asking what it's for, yeah.
So generally, when I worked for the White House Initiative, there were about 8 or 9 staff members that served as the liaison for HBCUs to the federal government. So they would have a conference every year in early September where a lot of black colleges would come and participate in workshops. They actually had, when I worked for the Bush administration as an intern, there was a workshop that they had at UDC for new HBCU presidents to get them acclimated to all of the various different programs. As well as general support. They also had to do a yearly report, where the office outlined the federal government's participation with HBCUs. And so that generally is what the office did. However, under the Obama administration, it was not necessarily what people thought was going to happen. People assumed that having a black president would mean that HBCUs would have a greater role in the federal government. That didn't happen. The office got smaller. In fact, and this is something that's very fascinating, I actually confirmed this today, the president didn't actually announce an executive order for black colleges until February of 2010. And so it took
what was he doing
President
for 2 years?
Obama 13 months to announce the executive order, and it took Trump a month. That is very interesting to me because it's clear that under the Obama administration, it was not a priority to do immediately. It literally took them over a year to even introduce an executive order. And if you look at all of the media, black college presidents famously complained about the director of the White House Initiative, who is now the president of Morehouse College, as well as the disrespect and the lack of attention that Barack Obama, the President Obama, played on black colleges, and the plus loan debacle, and all of the other issues that kind of that arose through his presidency as related to HBCUs. I talked to staff members in the office who were praying, that were looked at the Bush administration as a kind of good old days compared to their treatment under the Bush and under the Clinton, under the Obama administration.
Oh, so stop for a second.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Jarrell. You said that some of them looked at the Bush years as the good old days. Like it went. So you're saying like
your first black president. Let's get this clear. Yvette, tell the people what he said.
This is something that is absolutely a fact. I mean, people literally felt that Bush treated black colleges better than Obama did. And that's a fact. I mean, you can ask, people in the HBCU community will tell you that there was a lot of despair and bitterness around Obama's shabby treatment of black colleges. And you can Google and look. I actually put on my post, Facebook post, snapshots of articles that talked about how folks felt about when he spoke at Morehouse College, and basically chastised the students at Morehouse College and told them not to make excuses. The fact that he never attended an annual conference. He never attended an annual conference for the HBCUs, as well as he actually never, outside of the ceremonial signing of the executive order, he never actually met with the advisory board of the White House Initiative on HBCUs. He never met with them. And so, people are just really skeptical. And if you look over the last few years, Ta-Nehisi Coates has talked about how Obama has been treating black colleges. And it's just been a very, very interesting history. And I posed a question a few moments on Facebook. The question shouldn't be, why is Trump doing this? The question should be, why didn't Obama do it?
Okay. So let me just ask you a question, like in terms of providing context. Let me just ask you a question. Like we talked about, why didn't Obama do it? I've seen everybody say today that there is absolutely no benefit to like moving the HBC initiative, which was a White House initiative, to the actual White House. That there's nothing consequential about moving that initiative. What do you say about that?
I think that's totally disingenuous. If Barack Obama had moved the White House initiative on black colleges to the executive office of the president, people would still be talking about that because symbolism matters. And the fact of the matter is, the current placement of the White House initiative is not in the White House. It's in the Department of Education. And basically, the people who work for the White House initiative are employees of the Department of Education, and they generally have to go through the Department of Education to actually get anything done. It used to be, if I'm not mistaken, the office is actually under Bush as well as under Obama. It was actually housed in the office of the Secretary of Education. And so literally they did not have the freedom to actually do the kind of moves that they wanted to do because they had a lot of layers to actually get to the president. And so I think that people are being disingenuous. If Obama had did this, he'd be the second coming of Christ. And actually the whole, and the thing is this, and this is what I keep telling people. When I worked for the White House Initiative, I would always include it on my resume, but I couldn't lie to people. If they asked me, did you work in the White House? I had to say, no, I didn't, because I didn't. I didn't work in the White House. I was paid by the Department of Education. Now, with this current executive order, you are truly working in the White House. And there's a difference if you're calling from the office of the president to a Department of Defense, or you're contacting the Department of Agriculture. You have a whole lot more power and prestige behind you to actually go after and get these dollars. And I really want to talk about why HBCUs and the interaction with the federal government is so important. And it really is a testament to the fact that black colleges are so much poorer than their white counterparts. and that the federal government has a whole lot more to do with the stability and even the existence of black colleges than white colleges. You don't care about the White House initiative on predominantly white institutions because, quite frankly, they have the endowments, they have the money, and that's not the case with all of the black colleges. And I'd like to say one statistic that is really, really telling. Howard, Morehouse, Spelman are generally considered the most elite HBCUs. If you combined all of their endowments, it would be about $1.1 billion.
Okay.
And combined, they have around 14,000 students. Exeter, which is a high school, has an endowment of $1.2 billion and only has 1,000 students.
Woo!
So the richest white high school, this is a fact, this is not my personal opinion, the richest white high school has a greater endowment than Morehouse, Spelman, and Howard combined.
Wait a minute, let me just bring that home, Jarrell. Let me just bring that home, Jarrell. You said the richest white high school has more money than these top HBCUs combined. High school has more money. We ain't even got to college yet, Jarrell. You know, we ain't even got to Harvard yet. We ain't even talking about that yet. You say that combined? Are you? I mean, a high school, a white high school, got more money than these HBCUs? Are you kidding me?
And listen, this is the thing. John Adams had a quote. He said that facts are stubborn things. These are the facts. These are not my opinion. And so this is why, the White House initiative has outsized influence over, HBCU policy because they play such a critical role. Listen, I just looked at an article. Howard is the wealthiest black college in the country. It has an endowment of $660 billion. However, to meet all of the unmet financial aid at Howard, you actually would need an endowment of about $5 billion.
Oh my God!
For Howard to meet their financial aid, they would need an endowment not of $660 million, but of $5 billion. That's not happening anytime soon.
Jesus. Oh my God. And let's just say something. Let me just say something else. I talk a lot, Jarrell, on this show about income inequality. That's what I talk a lot about on the show. And I saw to put this all in context, I saw a billionaire give $400 million. And I'll put this up later, but I'm just going to tell you, $400 million to Harvard, right? Think about, and Harvard already has an endowment well into the billions. And we're talking double-digit billions. Right? And I think you said something one time on my post. You said something that I want to drive home is that we're swimming in two different pools of water. We're swimming in two different pools of water, which is why the president of Howard, is my alma mater, said we cannot exist without government. And isn't that another reason why it's important, whether or not Trump does anything, it's important to engage him?
Listen, the fact of the matter is you have HBCUs that literally serve hundreds of students and have endowments of $500,000 or $600,000. I mean, people who don't understand, or people who believe that we can just say to the federal government, thanks but no thanks, they're engaging in fantasy. They're engaging in wishful thinking. And now, I'm a proud graduate of Howard. Howard was a great place for me.
too.
But I recently heard of students saying that, we should not accept any money for Trump. Think about that. Black colleges have accepted money from some of the most repulsive people in history. Black people have accepted, look at almost every black college, there's a Carnegie Library on every single college campus, college campus.
Yes, sir.
In a prominent place. When we think about the fact that many of these universities were created with the most insidious purposes. I'll give you an example of one school that was created as a direct reaction to white supremacy. There was a college in 1950 in Mississippi. It's now the current Mississippi Valley State University. And it was created by Southern segregationists in 1950 because they knew that integration was coming. And they wanted to make sure that African Americans did not attend the University of Mississippi, the University of Southern Mississippi, and all of the other predominantly white institutions in Mississippi. And so they created Mississippi Valley State as a university in response to making sure that blacks went there as opposed to going to other schools. And the name of the college, the original name of Mississippi Valley State, is actually very illustrative of the kind of history that HBCUs have had to work with. They named the school Mississippi Vocational College. And the reason why they named it Mississippi Vocational College was because they wanted to produce white blue-collar workers. Now, eventually, they changed the vocational to Valley, and it became, a state university, and it became, what it is today. But all of these HBCU institutional legacies, none of them are clean. None of them are, only dealing with good white folk. They have taken more money from racists and people who say, you know what, let's give more money to South Carolina State so black people don't go to the University of South Carolina. So there's always been this history of engaging with white supremacists throughout their entire history.
And I think, Jarrell, what people don't understand, I think you understand it because of the work that you've done, and I think I understand it. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is that we don't really have much of a choice. Like, this is something that stands out for me. Like, we don't have much of a choice. Like, we don't have a choice not to do it. When you look at those numbers, and that's why I like numbers so much. When you look at those numbers and how we fare in terms of just even a white high school, we didn't even get to white colleges yet. We don't have a choice but to talk to these people. We don't have the president of the United States in the richest country in the world.
So, Jarrell, if I understand this correctly.
Think about that. Let me just say this. Number you referenced a donation to Harvard University. That one donation to Harvard is more than every single HBCU endowment except Howard. Think about that. One donation to Harvard is more than every HBCU that we love outside of Howard. So that $400 million is more than Spelman, is more than Tuskegee, is more than Fisk, is more than Morehouse, is more than Fan
combined,
is more than Southern, is more than all of these schools. That tells you how far we have to go. $400 million would literally transform schools. I mean, it would transform schools that have been around for 150 years. And so, that's something that I'm glad that you're highlighting, the fact that these numbers are so stark and that, basically saying that we don't want the federal government is basically fantasy.
I think Iremy has a question for you. I'm going to let him ask this.
So, Jarrell, if I understand this correctly, you're saying if I just meet a random bison on the street, if I just see someone random with a Howard sweatshirt on, they're in debt, is what you're telling me.
Oh, of course. Oh, listen, of course. I mean, I think that goes without saying.
If I just see a random someone with a Morehouse,
I know I'm in debt.
Me too.
And I think that no question about it. I mean, I think that the explosion in the cost of higher ed is really a shame, and it really should be a national shame. I remember listening to an interview from James Carville, and James Carville was talking about he attended Louisiana State University law school, and he was saying how when he attended law school, it was $100 a semester.
Wow.
That's how much his law school was. He said he would literally go in his pocket and just pay for his law school. Louisiana State Law School, right, tuition, folks, is probably more than $20,000 a year. So when you start talking about particularly African Americans who attended schools in the 60s and 70s, these folks were the beneficiaries of affirmative action. They were the beneficiaries of very, very inexpensive colleges. And so a college degree, you could graduate from, a Howard or a Hampton or a Morehouse or a Spelman, and it was affordable. It was something that you didn't go into life-changing debt. That's not the case today. You're talking about the average, I believe the average black family's wealth is $7,000, And when you look at how much a place like Morehouse costs, Morehouse is over $30,000 a year. It's almost $40,000 a year.
Ooh.
So a school that is
Expensive.
targeting and catering to the African American community is charging $40,000 a year to a community that only has $7,000 of wealth.
Jesus.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist that people cannot come up with $40,000 when the median income of African Americans is less than that.
And I think that's something that people miss. Like, I think that's something that people miss. I have a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, who comes on my page a lot and says, like, well, black people miss these financial opportunities. He doesn't understand that we're in a different world. Like, he's like, we should take advantage of the market. And I don't want to be rude to anyone. I don't want to make anybody feel bad. But we come from a history, a lineage in this country of slavery, and now we're disproportionately poor. Our schools are disproportionately bad in terms of K through 12. And so it's going to be a more expensive responsibility to do that, and we can't do that without the federal government. And then you come here and you say, go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right. I'll say this. So I was reading Johnny Cochran's autobiography, and I was reading it. It was a really good autobiography, and something struck me. Johnny Cochran literally paid nothing to get an undergraduate degree, I believe, from UCLA. Literally, I believe he said something like his parking pass was more expensive than his tuition.
Good God.
So I mean, this is how this is a fact. Like these are not like literally the University of California system was free. Yeah. And then even if you look at schools like City, you know how many Jews, first generation Jews, went to City College in New York because it was free. Yeah. And the nickname of City University is actually a really telling name. They used to call it the Harvard of the proletariat because so many first generation Eastern European Jews, they would go to City University, go for free, and they were able to catapult their family into the middle class with no debt. Yeah. And so when you start talking about the fantastic book that I read called When Affirmative Action Was White.
Yeah, I read that too.
During that time when colleges, great book. It really talks about how, the foundation of white wealth in this country has really been government subsidies for higher ed as well as home ownership. And at the same time, African Americans were literally barred from participating. And so you have white wealth in terms of higher educational attainment through the GI Bill, as well as the VA loans that opened up the suburbs to white folks. At the same time, they were blocking those same opportunities for African Americans. That's a fact.
Absolutely. And that's what I tell people. While these, and I tell people like when affirmative action was white, that's the book he just mentioned. What I tell people is when people were amassing wealth in this country, when white families were amassing wealth or were moving to the middle class and then the upper middle class, we were locked out. Like, we were locked out of education, locked out of wealth. These are things that we were locked out of. That's important to understand when you understand why HBCUs don't have money. You have to, in order to understand why HBCUs don't have money, you have to understand why black people don't have money. And black people don't have money because we were locked out when people were creating money for themselves, and it all came from government. So it's always ironic when I hear people say, we don't need government, but white people weren't even big enough to not need government. They needed government. How can you tell me? Go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, and then what I would say is this. Look at where these large state universities actually grew. So when you start talking about the pathways to the middle class, when you start talking about the Wisconsin idea, when you start talking about the growth of Ohio State and Indiana University and University of Michigan, those places became what they are after World War II. Because white folks got out of World War II and they were able to become doctors and become lawyers and become all of these great things. And here's the thing, you're talking about tuition that was almost nothing. Not only was tuition nothing, they didn't even have to pay the tuition that was damn cheap, Yeah. And so when you start talking about, even when you look at the cost of inflation, or you start talking about how much it would take for a person to work a minimum wage job and go to a place like Yale, you're talking about It's impossible now. It's impossible for someone to work their way through college at an elite school. It's impossible for someone to work themselves through college, even at a state school, because even places like Rutgers University are, their tuition is out of the reach. And so what happened is, instead of saying the government is going to invest in higher education, what happened is they put the burden on people. And so people had to take out these fantastic loans that literally trapped them in poverty. And so it's something to be said. We have entire folks who, I have family members, law degrees, and they're driving Uber with $200,000. They're driving Uber, $200,000 in debt with a law degree from a top 20 law school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We saw it here. We saw it here. We had a young man call in. He graduated from Northwestern. Two degrees. Northwestern, and he was driving Uber. And what I try to tell people is that there has been consistently a divestment in education. It went from being like a public good to a private good that you have to pay for. And so that is incredibly important, even in terms of the stories that you just told about people, how much they had to pay. It puts college out of reach. And so we have HBCUs. And HBCUs, people don't even understand the value of HBCUs. There was a great article from NPR not too long ago about how HBCUs graduate more black kids than white schools. This is necessary, but in order to have it, it has to be funded.
And it can't be funded from black people.
Listen, here's the thing. There's a saying that when I worked for the White House Initiative is that when black folks go on boards, they don't give money, they give advice. And the problem is, you can't pay the light bill with advice. Yes. And so what's happening is, I'll give you another story that I want to tell you. So when I worked for the White House Initiative, I remember, staffing the conference. So I'm staffing the conference, and, I'm talking to all of the board members who were coming up and, registering for the conference. So I go to this conference, and I remember meeting a board member of St. Paul's College. Now, St. Paul's College is was an HBCU. It's closed now, but it was an HBCU that closed during the Obama administration. What was fascinating about St. Paul's College was I met a board member, and through talking to the board member, I found out that the board member was a guidance counselor. And I said to myself, if St. Paul's has a guidance counselor on their board, they're not going to be of this earth very long.
Yeah, they go.
Really,
yeah. No, yeah, you're exactly right. No, I said you're exactly right. Like, board members are supposed to bring in money. Like, and that's the job. But yeah, guidance counseling, that's a pretty good predictor of like where that school's going. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, literally. And the crazy thing is, I would literally meet these people. I mean, I would call, colleges, and I would call the phone, and the president would pick up the phone. Like we're talking about two different worlds. And so that's something that has always been interesting. And I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to work at the White House Initiative on Black colleges, because I was able really to see that a lot of this stuff, it's something that Fraser calls the Black bourgeoisie engages in the land of make-believe.
Yeah.
Right. So literally, we are engaging in fantasy, and that's why so many of these colleges are closing. I mean, there's another HBCU right now, Payne College in Augusta, Georgia, that is pretty much lost its accreditation. It looks like it's going down the tubes. These smaller HBCUs, every year, these schools are getting, particularly the smaller one, the smaller church-affiliated HBCUs, they're going down the drain because folks can't afford to spend $20,000 a year, and they can't afford it. And so folks are saying, let me go to the state HBCU, let me go to a community college. In fact, that's another thing I want to talk about. The free community college plan that President Obama announced, HBCUs were highly offended. They were upset because they realized that if you can go to community college for free,
that's it for us.
There's no reason to go In fact, in this last thing, I love this topic so much, and I do a lot of reading on it, so there's a lot. In fact, Clyburn was upset at Bernie Sanders' proposal for free tuition at black colleges, or public black colleges. And John Clyburn, who was a ranking member, or is a ranking member of Democratic leadership, he literally said, Tougaloo will close if Jackson State is free. And so he was actually opposed to Bernie Sanders' free college proposal because he believed that it would negatively impact HBCU. So a lot of this stuff is just so interesting, and not all this stuff is available, online for people to read, but it's just very fascinating.
Okay. Jarrell, I just want to thank you so much. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. And I want to, for coming on and explaining this in a way, because you have a wealth of knowledge that a lot of people don't have. I don't have. And I just want to say, people say you don't need HBCUs. Well, I want to just say one thing. Jarrell went to Howard and so did I. Tell me you don't need HBCUs.
Yeah.
Tell me the people who are explaining this.
I'll finish with this. This is something that I heard working for the White House Initiative. If black colleges didn't exist, we would be creating them. And that one thing that I would say is that the black college in this country, if you look at what it's done, when you think about a school like Virginia Union, which was founded in a jail, and you think about the human capital that Virginia Union was able to develop and create such a black middle class over the last 150 years, I think that if black colleges didn't exist, we would be creating them. And that, I think that this is a gift for our community, that these colleges exist to provide opportunities for folks who, for whatever reason, didn't have them. And so I'm a supporter of them. I study them.
Me too. And
I want them to succeed. And, quite frankly, if you giving out money, HBCUs should not turn down anything, because at the end of the day, we need these doors to open, because there are thousands of students across the country that need what HBCUs are giving.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jordan. I appreciate you coming on. I hope, you're gonna be my person now with HBCUs, whether or not you know it or not. Good God, that was good information. I appreciate it.
You're way too kind.
I appreciate it, brother. No, you way too good. That's a good young brother.
I'm a fan of your work, and I look forward to, following you talk about, the interesting political times that we're in today. So have a good evening, and thank you.
I appreciate it, Jarrell. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate that.
All right, bye-bye.
Good. I mean, Come
tell the people what we
on.
learned.
Huh?
Tell the people what we learned.
Oh my God. I mean, I think we learned, something that I had talked about in the past, how bad Obama was, but then we also learned the benefit. We also learned, the white high school comment.
Yeah.
The white high school. That white high school got how much money? And HB got like oh my God, got more money than the top HBCUs. One white high school, not a college. We're not even in the colleges yet.
No.
One white high school, but we're gonna bring up some. To just drive home what Jarrell was talking about. I want to bring up some. Data, and I want to bring up. I told you all about John Paulson giving $400 million to Harvard. And I want to let's bring up clip. Can we bring up clip number 5 when you get a chance? I want to bring that clip up and just show you. Let's just break it down like we do. Let's just show a little bit of the data before we go to the phones. I just want to show a little bit we ain't got to show it all. But just show a little bit
there
of.
You go.
Look at that chart. Do y'all see that chart? Look at that chart. Look at that. Just look at it. I want you to take a time. If you need to, make that chart big as my head. All right, make that chart bigger. Just make that chart. You got to look at that chart. Look. And now move it over. Let's see what the university is. Look at that. Look at Harvard.
Hold on.
Oh my God. I want you all to
there
look.
You go.
Look at Harvard right there. Look at Harvard. Harvard University. Now look at Howard. Harvard got $32 billion.
And that one Paulson gift is as much as Howard's.
It's as much as everybody except Howard, but then it's as much as Howard. Just half a billion. Good God! And let me. While we're doing that, I want to read you all one quote This is the president of Howard talking about Howard. And I'm just going to read this quote. And this quote is in, I'm going to put that clip up in a second, but it's from Diversity. It's from Diversity Education. And I'm going to put up in just a second. But here is what he says. He says, and his name is Wayne A.I. Frederick. He said, Frederick stressed Howard's unique position in the higher education sector and its dependency on federal dollars. Other than military institutions, Howard and Gallaudet University are the only two institutions that are federally chartered. In addition, let me say that again, federally chartered. That's important. In addition, Howard derives a significant amount of its funding from the federal government. Frederick said that when all revenue streams are taken into account, approximately 88% of Howard revenue could be traced back to the federal government. 88% of Howard's revenue can be traced back to the federal government. Do you know what that means?
That means when the president calls,
you pick up the phone. And it also means that if the federal government stops paying money to Howard, I don't have an alma mater no more. So all you kids at Howard talking about you shouldn't meet with Trump, you shouldn't do this, I need you to get somewhere and sit down because you don't understand politics. I need you to get somewhere and sit down because you don't understand money. I need you to get somewhere and sit down because you don't know how to count. This is important. I don't need children playing games. This president is trying to do his job. He understands where the money comes from. When you understand that the money comes from the federal government, you understand that when the president calls, you got to do what, Army?
you pick up the phone.
You pick up the phone.
Oh, no.
There's no way you don't pick up the phone. There's no way you don't show up. And there's certainly no way that you listen to Charles Blow and all of his BS. And let me say what he said. Let me just go a little bit further. Let's go a little bit further. Let's talk a little bit about it. Tuition and alumni giving at their current rate would not cover expenses, Frederick said. He pointed to the financial needs of his students, saying that the university had to increase the level of annual institutional aid to students from $42 million to its current $110 million. From $42 million to $110 million. After the Parent Plus Loan student program was revised by the Obama administration. Do you understand what that happened? Obama cost my alma mater, subtract 42 from 110. He cost my alma mater that much money. That's Obama. That's what Obama did. That little dude that y'all like when he run around and he come out of theater. Oh, Obama's vacationing. Oh, Obama's doing this. Look at what Obama's doing. This is how much money he cost HBCUs. This is why I can't stand the man. This is what he did. And he didn't have to do it. This was a unilateral change. He did this unilaterally. The Republicans didn't make him do it.
No Republican Congress?
Nobody. His Department of Education did this. And when the CBC was talking to him about it, he said he was very dismissive and derisive. He don't care. He don't care. He went to Harvard. He don't care about that. He don't care about HBCUs. He probably thinks he's better than HBCUs. He don't care. But this is what he did to us. Even with the jump in institutional aid, students are still falling short on their tuition bills. Howard is currently $30 million short on tuition. It's old. Howard is $30 million short on tuition. It's old. And you want to talk about not meet with the president? What's wrong with y'all? What's wrong with y'all? Y'all ought to boycott Charles Blow. You know, HBCU students right now should be protesting outside the New York Times. This dude who graduated from Grambling is talking about what Trump shouldn't, what HBCU presidents shouldn't be doing in terms of who they shouldn't be taking money from. Y'all should be protesting outside the New York Times right now instead of scribbling graffiti on Howard's front yard. I tell you what, if I was president of Howard, graffiti would be an expulsionable offense. Get out.
Get out.
Get out. We don't need you here. We are doing studies. That's what we do. We don't need you at our institution.
No, what he said about the relative Howard debt was really like the idea that you meet a bison now, that means like you're meeting a young black person in debt. Like you can't say that about Harvard, Yale, or Columbia, or like if I run into a bison on the street, if I run into someone from Howard on the street, probably up to 50 years old, they're probably going to be in debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's just the fact of black life. And that's honestly, let's talk about the truth. That's the fact of black excellence.
Yeah.
That means that like these are excellent black people.
Yeah.
Who come from slaves and sharecroppers and Jim Crow, so they don't have the generational wealth to pay $50,000 a year.
Hell no.
No.
Well, you got that kind of money. What I look like?
No.
I mean,
but some people do. They're just
white
not
people.
black. Yes.
Yeah, they don't come from slaves.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Put that right. Put that
We're
up.
gonna put it up there?
Put that up.
All right.
Let's talk about endowments. Only a few schools. There are 7 that have an endowment above a certain amount. Those are Howard, Spelman, Hampton, Xavier, Morehouse. But look at this. There are schools that have endowments below like $2 million. Look at those schools on your screen right there. Those schools have no money. They are white. They are single white families right now, all over America, not 1 or 2 that have more money than these institutions.
If you're an endowment, it's $90,000. You don't even have an endowment.
You don't have a school.
You don't have it. That's not endowment.
And it's not our
That's not
fault. People are like, well, we should just be better caretakers of the money. No. What money? There is no money to be better care. Howard is federal. The only reason Howard is doing so much better is it's federally chartered. Right? That's one of the big reasons why it's doing so much better. And it's still struggling. Howard University is still the best of the best HBCUs is still struggling. Come on, people. Like, this is a red alert time. How can you say that we should, now I don't know what Trump is going to do, but you can't say that we shouldn't be meeting with him. You can't say that. What we should be doing is talking about what do we do when we meet with him? How do we convince him? What do we say to him? Who do we push? Who do we prod? What do we do?
I'm looking at an endowment that's $1 million. That's just like not, I can't take that seriously, Yvette.
They don't take it seriously either, but these are real schools.
That's an endowment with
and
$1 million.
Wait a minute. And these aren't new schools. These are schools that have been around a lot of time, over 100 years, these schools. A lot of these schools, most of these schools, over 100 years have been around. Over 100 years.
And it's not because they're not doing their job.
No, they graduate more black kids. They graduate more black kids than white institutions.
It's just because their alumni are broke.
And it's not our fault.
No. That's what happens.
And it's not our fault. That's what you have to understand. Their alumni are broke, and it's not our fault. It's not our fault that the alumni are broke. That we're broke. We come from what I said we came from. That's who we are.
No, yeah, we asked.
Now it's funny, like when you talk about.
So the administration, for your next clip, your administration is saying, we got to meet with.
Yeah, that's the clip right there from Wayne from the president of Howard, and you can look that up. You see the clip, you can look it up. What I just read to you is that clip from him. What he's saying, we are federally chartered. 88% of our money comes from the government. It can be traced back to the government. That means you only have 12% of your dollars that come from somewhere other than the government. Everything I keep telling people is you gotta do the math. I don't care about your rhetoric. I don't care about what kind of article you wrote. I need you to do the math. This is important. 14 four-year HBCUs have endowments of less than $2 million. That was the chart we showed before. That's important.
Yeah, when you have an endowment less than $2 million, that's barely an endowment. That means the draw from that endowment, like you can't even really take advantage of compound interest. Like, that's not real. You're not in the game. No. You're not in the game. You're still doing a service for black people by graduating anybody.
You're not in the game.
But you're not in the game.
You're not in the game at all.
Like, you're hustling, like putting pennies together to pay for janitors and like.
You're not in the game at all.
Yeah. So but you're not in the game because like you're graduating the descendants of slaves. So there is no like alumni wealth. There is no like bequeathed will money.
And let me just draw this home. Paulson's $400 million gift, this billionaire who gave all this money to Harvard, he gave Harvard $400 million. Paulson's $400 million gift alone, he said, let's just draw this home, is larger than the entire endowment of every single HBCU in the country except for Howard. Howard is the only exception, and it's federally chartered. Paulson's $400 gift alone is larger than the entire endowment of almost every single HBCU in the country, Howard being the only exception. One gift from one white man. When I talk about the calcification of wealth, this is what I'm talking about. This is the consequence of being in a country where inequality at its highest point than in anywhere, anytime on the planet. This is the consequence of that. Because the people that have wealth, they just calcify it. So he has all this money, and he's not going to give it to Howard. He's not going to give it to Spelman. He's not going to give it to any of these smaller HBCUs either. What he's going to do, he's going to take that, and he's going to give it to Harvard. And he's going to make income inequality even more, even worse. That's how it calcifies. That's how it calcifies. That's how it becomes a problem. This is the issue of our time, people. Stop playing games. This is the issue of this inequality is the issue of our time. And you know what he's doing? He's probably leveraging power, because after giving that much money to Harvard, you can get anybody into Harvard. Yeah. You can get anybody into Harvard. He could get me into Harvard right now. I wouldn't need no GRE. I wouldn't need nothing. If he said, put Yvette in Harvard, I'd be Harvard. That's what he's leveraging. And so the people who have the money are not trying to leverage to get nobody into no HBCU. Like, this is what he's doing. These people, these billionaires always have a plan. So this is very important in terms of the context. People talk about, well, what's the big deal about income inequality? This is the big deal about income inequality in this country. This is the big deal.
So we need to tax this guy and then get the government to give the money to the people who the government owes, which is black people.
That's exactly why you tax him.
Right.
That's exactly why you tax him. That's exactly why you do that. That's exactly. And let me just, there was a great question the former executive director of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges. He gave an interview, and it was very interesting. If you wanna look this up, you can look it up. It was in Diverse Education. I'll try to put the link up a little bit later. But he had a conversation, and his name is Leonard Hayes, and he had a conversation. He did an interview, and they asked him. They said, "Coming," they said, they wanted to know about where you come from, what's going on, and he didn't seem. They said, how would you describe the plight of HBCUs now compared to that era? Unfortunately, the current administrative approach, and he was talking about Obama, the current administrative approach to helping HBCUs has been wanting and a near disaster. HBCU, this is a black man talking. HBCUs, in terms of overall support from the federal government, have gone backward, not forward. This is during Obama's administration, he's saying this. Where is that most evident? You can document it, he says. Look at the Parent Plus loan debacle that cost HBCUs $168 million. $168 million that we don't have in operating capital, or the lack of contracts and grants going to HBCUs because the executive order signed by President Obama has not generated the kind of results that we hope for. Actually, there has not been any movement of the needle forward. Does the responsibility for that lack of movement forward also lie with the new former Secretary of Education? He was focused on K through 12, not HBCUs and higher education.
It's a failure of black politics is what you're telling me.
A failure of black politics.
Failure of black politics.
A failure of the United States of America, which they failed at us, and a failure of black politics.
So John Lewis should have been sitting down for...
He should have been sitting down making stuff happen.
For this.
He should have been sitting down making stuff happen for us. For us. And he didn't do that. Instead, he wants to create a spectacle. And I can't drive home enough, and I just want let's play that. There was a great clip, and if you all don't see this clip, if you all watch this on YouTube later and you don't see the clip, it's because I got a copyright thing and I took it out. But there was a great interview on PBS NewsHour, and it kind of framed the conversation that we're having, and it kind of goes to what we heard. What we heard before, what we've been hearing. So I want you all to kind of watch that. And I just can't believe that we're here. Like, honestly, like while I'm talking, like I'm just kind of, when I think about it, I'm just really kind of thrown off, because I can't believe that we still like Obama after like what he did. But let's watch the clip.
Johnny, let me start with you. Why is it important for this initiative to be back under the White House?
At the end of the day, where you live matters in so many ways, right? When we were in the Department of Education, this office, it was 3 levels down. It didn't even report to the Secretary of Education. To me, that said volumes about what the former administration, and frankly, former administrations, thought about HBCUs. We judge you more about what you say, it's about what you do. And so moving us to the White House sends the message to the entire country that HBCUs matter, and they matter to the person, frankly, the most powerful person in the country, the President of the United States.
Sophia Nelson, it's symbolic, and symbols are important, but it's not cash. And cash and funding is what a lot of these presidents are here lobbying for right now.
Here's what I'm encouraged by. Yesterday in the press conference, Sean Spicer talked about they were going to do what he called a review of the agencies. Now, I happen to understand the way this works, having worked in the federal government and dealing with HBCUs as I have in my past life as an attorney. The money that I think they're going to find is mostly in the R&D space. They're going to look at departments of defense and some of the other agencies, and people think defense and HBCUs, yes, ROTC programs,
That's
for
right.
example, right? So I think what the Trump administration is going to do is shrewd. They're going to look for existing pockets of money that, under past executive orders, as you know, direct agencies to make sure that HBCUs are fully funded, and they haven't been. That's the challenge. So what I want America to understand is that the legislation, or actually the executive action, has been there consistently.
That's right.
But there's no enforcement of what the agencies are doing with the dollars.
And that's why it matters.
Therein is what I'm hopeful about, that at least they're going to take the look and say, let's find what we're doing in the agencies and let's get this money directed in where it's supposed to go. And I really want to talk about the R&D and the FFRDCs and all the stuff that most HBCU presidents don't even know about, tragically. There's a lot of money in the R&D space. Our country spends $30 billion with a B dollars a year in R&D that goes to Johns Hopkins, Stanford,
That's right.
Harvard,
$1.5 billion,
Yale.
right.
And the HBCUs get about 15 million to 30 million of that. That's tragic.
And let me just point out, too, it's important the executive side of the House, but ultimately the White House has a small budget. It can recommend a budget. Ultimately, we've got to get over to Congress, which is why the first day was at the White House. The second day was the HBCU fly-in being hosted by the Republican leadership at the Library of Congress. That's what's important, because it's all going to hit. The president releases his budget in the next 6 or 8 weeks, and then it goes over to Congress. We've got to get the money not only authorized, but then appropriated.
Let's talk.
Johnny, let me start with you. Why is...
We're back.
Now, somebody on my page wrote something. I'm gonna get to exactly what was said, but we talked about the $400 million by this Paulson guy. Somebody said Paulson was just funding my former Harvard department because it produces the types of PhDs that end up working at his hedge fund. Doctorates in applied mathematics, computer sciences, theoretical physics. These are the quants who helped him become a billionaire. It's not, we don't have those. You see what I'm saying? So listen to what they just said on that video, though. Listen to what was just said. What Sophia Nelson said was so important, because there are all sorts of monies that the government has to pass out in terms of research money, research grants, ROTC in the Defense Department. All of that are monies that the government has to pass out. Those are grants that the government has that Obama hardly ever gave out to HBCUs, okay? And when you look, even in terms of what the other gentleman said, he's with the Thurgood Marshall. He met with Obama. He was part of that, and he says, listen, where you are matters. Where you are matters. If you are in the White House, that matters. You're in the White House. You have proximity to power. Everybody in DC, let me say this. Everybody on Capitol Hill right now is trying to get around Trump. Don't believe that junk you heard about Maxine Waters and John Lewis boycotting. Everybody wants proximity to power. Capitol Hill is based on proximity to power. You want to be around people with power, be around people who can influence budgetary issues. This is important. And when you're around proximity to power, maybe you can influence powerful people. We are, so I want you to keep that in mind. Let me take a moment and say, listen, we're providing a service here. Iron Man and I are trying to do this. We got shoestring budgets. If you can go to breakingbrown.com and subscribe and pay a monthly amount, you can go to donatebrown.com and pay one time. You can, we want you to share this. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, if you're watching this right now on Facebook, I want you to share this with your people. I want you to go to subscribe to Brown, and subscribe so I can have you on my mailing list. Let's do these things, and let's try to make a difference. So I had to take a break to take that, to make sure we do that. breakingbrown.com.
We're doing black politics here. We're doing black politics that you're not going to find on CNN. You're not going to find Charles Blow talking like this about the good and the bad of Trump's HBCU bill and what black politics means to black institutions and what black institutions mean to black life. So we're doing it here. We're doing it in a special way. So please help us do this so maybe we can do it a little bit more often and get good people like Jarrell back on the line Great, maybe even get them in studio. But we need
Yeah, I like to pay people to come. I don't want to do this charity stuff. Like I want if Jarrell comes and sits in the studio, I want to pay him.
Right.
If somebody comes and wants to say, hey, I want to do work for Breaking Brown, I want to pay him. I don't want to just be here and not be compensating people for their time. That's how people die broke. They don't get compensated for their time. They don't get compensated for their energy. They do that out of the goodness of their heart. That's great, but I want to compensate people.
Good. All right, let's keep going.
So do we have any calls yet?
Oh,
we put the phone number up? Or do we need to?
We didn't need to. We'll pull up.
Y'all just be remembering the phone number. I can't get no new people because y'all just be remembering the phone. Put the phone number up so we gonna dump some of y'all tonight because y'all just be calling in and y'all just be memorizing. It's not fair for the people who don't know the number.
All right, I'm gonna take some and I'll put the number up.
Okay.
We'll go to this cat from Atlanta.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, what's going on, Yvette? What's going on, Irony?
Hey.
This is your watch party protege.
Woo, what's going on tonight?
How you doing?
Good.
How you doing?
I'm good. So, as usual, you guys are on point. I'm going to try to get my thoughts out here real quick and let some other folks step in. But first thing, stop these HBCUs. So people want to talk about what we're going to do for self, but then ask, why do we need HBCUs? I see that's just completely disconnected. Like, where have you been? Like, what world are you living in? Which brings me right into my next point is that you can't be in that world if you're listening to you guys and looking at the data, because it's like being black and knowing the data that you guys are putting out and talking about. It's like waking up from the Matrix. So all of a sudden you see all the games and all the stuff that's going on around you and nobody else sees. You're trying to convince them of stuff that, sometimes they'll fight tooth and nail to stay in it. They don't want to know. And so it's just, can be frustrating at times. Next thing, going back to the do for self argument. I'm so glad that you made the statement you made earlier, because I tried to call him this past Monday and say very much the same thing, but it is a false narrative. It is an absolutely false narrative, because you look at any community that has wealth, they didn't do it for self. Not as a community, they had government. Every community that has wealth today has had a structure of government, policy, and regulations to create that wealth and protect it.
Good. Yes.
In this country.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And there's no way to get around that. Everybody brings up Black Wall Street, and it's like, well, yeah, we created it, but guess what? It got destroyed. Why? Because we didn't have a structure of government policy and regulations to protect it. Government said, hey, we're going to turn the other way if people want to destroy it. You had people that were in government, local government, from your police and officials and stuff that actually went in, to kind of help destroy it. And then when the National Guard finally shows up, the black people get arrested for fighting back and defending themselves against that kind of destruction. So that's what happens when you create wealth. You don't have policy and regulations from government to protect it. Next thing, too many of us don't want to accept the fact that our community needs government. Because we've been so indoctrinated by having any help or having the government is a quote unquote handout, which plays right into the same conservative talking points that we just slap the white person for telling us. I just don't understand that. We're stuck on the do for self, and so much that we're willing to let white people basically take us to racial bankruptcy court to file Chapter 7 to 11 and being discharged reparations. Like, I don't understand that at all. That's
I don't either.
It's ridiculous to me.
I don't either. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate it, but I don't understand it either. I don't understand it either. I don't understand any of it. I mean, ask yourself, all these do-for-self people, how many of these do-for-self people do you think are donating on a regular basis to HBCUs? They ain't. They just talking. Like, I think when these do-for-self people start talking, you just be like, you're just talking. You're not saying anything worthwhile. You're just talking to me. And I don't want to hear any more hot air from black people. I don't want to hear any more hot air about what we can do from people who don't know the numbers, people who don't know the data, people who have never had a conversation like we just had early in this show. I don't want to hear from you. You ain't got nothing to say to me. And I think we have to start telling people that. Not saying like, well, you got a point. No, they don't have a point. They don't have a point. They don't know what you're talking about. And I'll tell you to your face, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'll tell you to stop talking. Just don't talk no more. Like, why don't you go back and watch? If you're a guy, go back and watch football. If you're a girl, go back and watch whatever. Real House, I don't know. Real Housewives, whatever. You don't know. Like, you don't understand what's happening. And what the caller said is true. When people tell me about Black Wall Street, the first question I ask is, where is it? What happened to it? Because the government could have stepped in and said, we're not going, these people are citizens, you can't come in and destroy their entire community. But instead what happened was that the police were part of the mob. There was nobody protecting us. There was nobody looking out for us. And that's what happened all through life, is that we've been shut out of wealth again and again and again. We keep trying. People say, why can't we be like the immigrants? We did be like the immigrants. You know what? They came and took it. They came and snatched it. That's what happens, and that's what has happened to us. And that's just the truth.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the problem is we're not being honest with each other, and this is why we do the show. We want to be honest with us. The truth is, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the data from the HBCUs, they don't have any money. Let's just be honest. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with that, but let's start where we're at. So they have to go from government because their alumni are broke. Their alumni don't come from like robber barons. They come from the help of robber barons. So you have to go from government and get our claim. That's what we have to do as Black people. There's no shame to that. There's no shame in that. We just need to be honest with what we are. And then honestly, that'll allow us to be truthful with ourselves and our friends so we can have a Black politics that's adequate to our moment. And that's the end game here.
Yep, absolutely. 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 I agree with you.
All right.
So, we could go to the next caller though, but I agree.
Yeah, hold on.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Block.
So, we can go to the next caller.
Block.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, this is Nikki Lee from the Blackboard.
Hey.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry. I'm watching you and trying to listen to you at the same time. So
Turn that off. Turn that off for a minute.
Nikki Lee from the Blackboard, and I just want to say, first of all, fantastic job that you and Arnie are doing.
Thank you.
This show is so much well needed. Now, one thing that I've been telling Black folks for a decade, I just want to make 3 quick points. Number one is that there is no such thing as any other group pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. We are the only group that has ever done that. Every other group exists due to a public and a private partnership. Public meaning the government, private meaning jobs. I'm out here in California, proud Trump supporter out here in California, and tonight it was between either watching your show or going to protest at one of the local schools who is considering a sanctuary resolution. So that's an example of a public partnership, a school getting ready to make sure that they don't kick out the children of illegal aliens. Now, no such plan has ever happened for Black folks, but yet you have a local school that is in open defiance against the federal government policy. So this goes to show you again how it's a public and private partnership. And for Black folks to not take the money that the president is wanting to give us, talking about we need to do for self, clearly we don't understand our own history. And furthermore, we don't understand what's been done for every other group of people. So the next point that I want to make is that the same students, Howard University or any of these other students running around talking about screw Trump and these dumbass politicians like out here, Barbara Lee, Maxine Waters, what is her name, the senator just got hired, Kamala Harris out here that most people think is Black and she really isn't. This is just another example of stupidity. Now, when the Mexicans decided to start protesting together, joining with somebody, who did they protest with? Did they protest with Black folks? No, they protest with Muslims, okay? Yep. And the people that they are protesting with, what they have in common is immigration. So here these Black folks are, putting their asses out there in the street, protesting with people who don't support them, okay, protesting with people who aren't hiring them, protesting with people who could give a rat's ass whether they go to jail or not. And then when the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, calls, they're going to turn down the phone at him when these other people are going to say, yeah, give me the money. Give me the money. They don't care what he's doing as long as he gets the money. Black people have to wake up quick, fast, and in a hurry. The last thing I want to say about all of this, and this is the framework of the work that I'm doing, is I'd like Black people to understand that we are a unique creation, and we are entirely different from all of these other groups of people, period. We're different in the way we think. We're different in the way we behave. We're different in the way that we respond to things. And a lot of people don't want to hear about God these days, but the fact of the matter is, if you understand from a spiritual perspective what's going on, then you wouldn't side with any of these other people. God says, do not walk in the counsel of the wicked. All these people are wicked. Why are we trying to co-sign with them? We're not even good at playing this game. So, we need to get back to standing on the right thing. When we were growing up, our parents and grandparents used to say that's white folks shit. We don't get involved in it. And that's what we need to get back to. Take the money from Trump. Take the jobs from Trump. Call the White House, tell them you need a job, and stop messing around as if though we have a lot of options. We don't.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate that. I think the most important thing she said was we're not good at playing this game. We're not good at playing this game. We're not. Because if we were good at playing this game, we would have a whole lot more than we have right now. If we were good at playing this game, we would understand that everybody else who plays this game is selfish, and we have no room to be selfless. Understand, everybody else is selfish who plays this game. Nobody plays this game out of their heart. I'm not criticizing anybody else in terms of how they play the game, because that's how they play it. You think La Raza is out here marching for Black people? No, they're out here doing stuff for immigrants. They're out here doing stuff for Latinos. You have to play this game to win, and you got to know who you playing for. If you're going to play for African Americans, I need you to wear my jersey. If you're going to play for Black people, you need to wear Black people's jersey. You can't go out here talking all this kind of stuff about everybody else. Ain't got nothing to do with you. Most important thing, she said, we are in a unique situation. Stop comparing us to Jews. Stop comparing us to Asians. We are African Americans. We are descendants of slaves in this country. We should be proud of what we have come through, what our ancestors have come through. In my family, we just laid to rest an ancestor who was 93 years old. Last time I talked to her, she told me about how the KKK roamed the neighborhood. I talked to her this past summer. You know what? Stop telling me this happened a long time ago. It didn't. It didn't. She just passed away. This didn't happen a long time ago. Stop trying so hard to be white that you want to just throw all of your history in the garbage and pretend like you're something that you're not because you are desperate. Stop it. We should be proud that we persevered. Not every community would have. That is nothing to be looked down upon at all. Good. Keep it pushing.
All right, go. Let's go here. I don't recognize this.
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to say that you're doing a very great job, and we're supporting you, and I want to also be able to donate some money for you for the show. And so if you can do that, where you can put me in touch where to donate, I'd like to do that.
We can tell them. Tell everybody.
Yeah, you can just go to breakingbrown.com and you can make a donation per month or a one-time donation. Or you can go to donatebrown.com where you can also make a one-time donation. So breakingbrown.com has something on the side of the page where you can make a donation, and donatebrown.com has a space to make a donation as well.
Okay, that's great. And please continue to do your good work. And I just started watching you guys maybe a few weeks, and you're the only thing that's out that's actually dealing with the reality of what's going on in this life.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care.
And let me tell you, let me tell you something,
Bye.
everybody. Even if you can't, if you can, or even if you can't donate, please tell people and share the video. That matters. Like Facebook decides how much by how many people like the video, how many people share it, how many people subscribe to my page. Even if you can't, you can tell people. You can tell people about it. Right. You can share it. You can like it. You can tweet it. Those are things that you can do, even if you don't have money. Those are tangible things you can do to help.
I can make an even more specific ask. If you're on a listserv with any black people, your holiday listserv, or
you have a group on Facebook, you have a
Facebook group, or like your birthday party people, your card people, just send an email around and say, hey, check out Yvette. She's doing Black News. This is interesting. This is good. This is kind of what we need to be talking about at a book club, at a wine club. I saw that wine club. Those people they're on a train sipping wine. All those people on that train who got that settlement money for getting kicked off that train, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
They should be watching this show, and they should probably kick in a little bit too, because we're doing black politics, and if that happens again, we'll cover it here and try to get you some more money. But tell your people. Send it around the listserv. Send it around all your people, like on Sunday at church. Make an announcement in your church saying, "Ooh, I just heard the best news."
And say we got to start talking about politics in our church. I'm not opposed to your Jesus. I'm not opposed to anybody's God. But we have to start doing more than moralizing in the church. I think we have to get politically activated and motivated in the church. I think we got to do that, and I'll come speak to your church. I will. I certainly will. I will come and talk to you about politics.
Yes.
So let's do. We got to start doing a lot of stuff, people, because we're like she said, we're in a unique situation. So.
Yeah, don't compare us to other people. They don't come from slaves. Not masses. All right, let's keep it moving.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, Yvette, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad I found you. I've been thinking like this for the past 3 or 4 years.
Good for you.
I've been really walking around confused, just like all the other black people. Just wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
It ain't you.
But I just want to put out here that I'm a working class, poor black woman.
Yes.
And I'm seeing how my community is declining to the point where random black guys are just getting murdered and nobody's finding out who's doing it. Nobody knows anything. But the thing I want to ask you, for the past 2 years, I've been trying to kind of, express to my peers and friends and family about the situation that the black community is in right now. And everybody just basically telling me to shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's hard out there. That's true.
I had an aunt that tell me that, well, you don't have a college education, so what makes you think black folks gonna listen to you?
Oh.
And I'm at the point now where, right, yeah. And I'm at the point now, why even enroll, got back into school in my late, I'm like 37, and I decided, well, maybe I need to go to college and get educated before I get out here and talk to the people. But it's got to the point where now it's like I can't even really afford that and read. But I wanted to ask you something. I was thinking, is education important really for the $35, the children of the baby boomers? Because it's looking like even me going to school to get this degree to get out here and support the community, it just seems like I'm getting nowhere. And it's just not even me. I'm talking to 50, 60 to 70 different peers along as well as saying we're not getting anywhere. Should we just forget about school and just focus on maybe donating, helping you, or just getting more into helping the community, or should we continue on going to school, working, going to school? I mean, it's just really looking bad. Like, what do I need to tell? I got 50 people waiting on answers. I got a few people who actually listen to me. What do we need to do?
Well, I've said before, I know people, and I would never say them. I would never say who they are. And I have people. I have somebody who I have a couple people who called in here who have degrees and who can't get work, who have degrees and can't find work. And getting a degree used to be like a key, and you could open the door to the middle class. That key doesn't exist anymore. So, I mean, honestly, if I was in my 30s or whatever, or almost 40, and I didn't have a degree, I think I would try to find stable employment. I don't think I would be that worried about getting a college degree, because sometimes, like, there was a very good statistic that shows, like, most black women who have degrees, like, have $11,000 in debt. Like, that's like the median. Like, $11,000 in debt. And women who don't have degrees have $0. And let me just say something. This idea that, like, it's really kind of elitist for the person who told you, you know, that you can't talk, you don't have a degree. I know a lot of people who have degrees who stopped reading when they graduated. They don't know nothing.
Yes.
So it's elitist to assume that because you have a degree, you automatically know more. And that's kind of what black people do a lot of time. They throw their degree around elitist black people to make poor black people feel bad. Well, I have a degree and I know. No, you haven't read a book since you left college. That don't mean nothing. I think Kwame Ture, otherwise known as Stokely Carmichael, was the one who said that, like, when he was at Howard, like, a lot of people didn't read a book after they left Howard. Like, that's the real deal. That's the real truth. I mean, Charles Blow's degree ain't helping nobody. He got a degree. When he writes, his degree ain't helping you. His degree don't help you do nothing. This isn't about college or not college. This is about calcification of wealth. This is about all the money going up. Like, there used to be a big swath, you know, of distribution of wealth from the, a big, like, the rich people got this, and then, like, the middle class got this, and poor people got this. It used to be wealth was distributed differently. Now the big deal is that wealth isn't distributed the same. It has nothing to do with degrees. What we need is black politics. We need to figure out who our political movers are and get people to move and get our politicians to move in terms of investing in our community. It's not anything that you did or did not do in terms of a degree that's holding you. My parents didn't have degrees, but they were able to have good jobs and were able to send me to school. It's not about degrees. It's about divestment. It's about distribution of wealth, and not having people in politics who do our bidding, not having people in politics who do what's right for us. That's the thing. So don't let nobody make you feel bad about not having a degree. I know people that cheated their way through college. It ain't got nothing to do with not having a degree.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And let's be honest, the studies have shown that education doesn't do for black people what your parents told you education would do for you. Like, it's got to be, we need a more complicated or a more nuanced approach to what it is we do when we go to college.
Yeah.
And right now, our biggest problem isn't education. It's not literacy. It's black politics. It's a media that tells us that we should be ashamed of being poor. When even if you have a degree, we've decided if you have a degree from an HBCU, you're probably in debt.
Yeah, probably.
Probably in debt. So, like, and your degree hasn't helped you with that yet. And, like, we got black people, a whole generation of Gen Xers and millennials who are going to die with that debt. And that means they're not leaving anything to their kids. They're going to die with that debt unless we get our politics right. So let's get a politics so that our degrees mean something. Let's get a politics so that our education means something. Let's get a politics so that our stable marriages mean something. Because right now, all of those things that we said that mean something and are supposed to mean something, they don't.
Somebody said the Obama Foundation to be hiring. So the Obama Foundation, I want to go out there with a picket sign. You son of a, you low down dirty county. I just want to be out there with a picket sign. Oh, just black people. Oh God. Oh, don't think
the Obama Foundation. Obama. Yeah. All right. Let's keep it moving.
Woo. Obama. He going around now, all open shirt out, a few buttons, smiling like he did something.
He did do something,
for Wall Street.
For black
people. He did a lot, just not for black
people.
Not for black people. He wasn't that concerned.
You're on.
Hey.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I hear you guys talking about the college education and should you get a degree or should you not. You know what? I think that college is a damn scam to keep money in the white folks' pocket. Okay? That is what that's all about, you know? And it's to keep other people comfortable while they're on our backs and they got their boots on our necks. That is what I think. You know, because
all I hear is, we just can't find any educated people here. And they keep pushing the school agenda and college agenda. Yet they say they can't find any qualified help because people aren't educated, And I heard that for I don't know how many years, okay? So then, you go to school and you get your degree. And then you're right. What do you have after you have that degree? A bunch of debt that you have to pay back. And that is the con game that they're doing on it. Then to add more to the con game, then those same people in Congress will give out visas to other people in foreign countries to come and work here in the United States. Well, where are the visas for us to go and work in other states or other countries where we can access some of the money?
Exactly.
So it's like a con game for the African American community. And to me, the best thing that we can do is to start communities, maybe the gardening thing, growing your own. I don't care if you get a vegetable cart and set a vegetable cart up, every Saturday and Sunday in the Black community to share, food and all of that stuff at decent prices, where that community is going to come to you, and purchase your stuff rather than going to a Walmart or another store like that. Because what happened is we have been systematically removed. Period. We are removed, and this is it. This is it, people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is our last shot to do anything. Because if we don't, guess what? The immigrants are coming. And that's another thing, too, that bothers me, I'm hearing the pink ladies marching for yada, yada, yada. But I never see these people marching for us.
Never.
Or holding signs up. Or
no, ma'am.
Doing business with us,
No.
And last night at that clown show with Trump, I saw the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, and you know what it looked like to me? It looked like she told them slaves, you better wear white today. I'm whipping you into shape. You can't think on your own. And when I tell you to do something, you better do it. It's crazy. And the only person that I saw that didn't show up was Maxine Waters. And Maxine Waters giving hell. But still, I don't put any trust in her either because she's been there for eon years, and we see Skid Row in her own community. Come on.
Yeah, that's black men.
Ooh.
Skid Row's black men.
No, thank you, caller. I appreciate that, but you're absolutely right. Like here's something. I don't say this a lot because people already say, "Oh, Yvette, it's depressing. I'm so sad." And I want to say, get yourself together because people have been through worse things in life. People have been through stuff much worse than what we're going through. There was a great book about during, I can't remember which war it was, but people were digging up graves and eating out of their bodies. People have been through worse things, people. Get yourself together. If you're getting depressed by this little bit of stuff, there's something wrong with you. Get yourself together. We have more internal fortitude than this. We've seen worse than this. But I really feel like, and I'm going to say it, I really feel like if we're not careful, like this could be our extinction event. Like people don't think about the fact that there are groups that have perished on the planet. And like African Americans could be one of them. We don't have the luxury of having this kumbaya attitude when it comes to other groups. If you want to ally, if you want to align with us and be our ally, we need an exchange. I'm going to do for you, you're going to do for me. You can't come to me. It's funny. When I see the ADL, right, advocate for Jewish people, I don't say nothing when they're just advocating just for Jewish people. When I see La Raza advocate for immigrants and advocate for Latinos, I don't say nothing because they're advocating for Latinos and immigrants. But when I say I'm Yvette Carnell, I'm African American, and I'm advocating for African Americans, everybody tells me that I'm a xenophobe. Everybody tells me I'm an awful person. How? All these other groups are doing the same thing. But when I do it as an African American, it's all of a sudden a problem. What that lets me know is that's how you have manipulated us for a long time. by telling us that we are somehow being unfair. Mind you, everything about this country has been unfair to us. But you're telling us we're unfair for demanding that our allies advocate for us, or they're not allies. Period. If you're not in the street for me, with me, then and trying to advocate for me on specific things, you're not my ally. If I say that black people, African American descendants of slaves, are my priority, all of a sudden, Yvette, you're a xenophobe. Yvette, you hate immigrants. Yvette, you must hate white women. No, I just understand my priorities. And I understand the consequence of slavery. And I understand the consequence of blackness. That's the only thing I see very clearly. And I think we all need to see that in terms of putting ourselves first. That don't mean we don't have no love for other people, that we can't interact with them or have an exchange in which we work together and be allies. But my priority, my number one priority is African Americans. And I think we should all get on that page. You can't be running around just advocating for everybody and squandering your energy. That makes you scattered and it makes you useless. So let's keep it moving on. You got somebody else?
Yeah, we got a full lineup.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, you hear me?
I can hear you.
Doing?
Pretty good. How you?
I'm surviving. I'm actually one of those people that goes to one of those small government HBCU. I go to Houston Service in Austin.
Okay.
And the funny thing about it, like what you mentioned about like a lot of people protesting about like how your HBCU president is going to meet like the president and stuff like that. It's funny because in my school doing the same thing. Like, well, how dare our president go to meet with President Trump and stuff like that? And that. I'm sitting there like, hey, we gotta be pragmatic because we can't afford it.
No.
Like, we basically trying to struggle to survive out here. And like, y'all talking about y'all basically being idealistic, and we can't afford to be idealistic. And the ironic part is that if you look at where our HBCU is at, we're in the middle of Austin. Like, we're basically right across the street from someone like University of Texas and St. Edwards and stuff like that. And they can afford to be idealistic. And it's like people, they kind of adopted that quote-unquote extreme liberal, the kind of super liberal view where it's like, oh, well, we got to be moral and stuff like that. We can't afford to be moral. It seems like this way. A lot of us that are graduating with debt. Hey, I'm about to graduate maybe with a history degree of political science minor. And I basically, okay, I want to be a military historian and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there like, man, I can't even find a job. I'm basically working a small-time job right now. Y'all basically saying the same thing, but yet when people are going to try to basically address the issue and say, okay, let's get these funds for the HBCU. Let's try to find a way to lobby to get government jobs to come to the HBCU to recruit people. Mom, do that because we got to spend on our morals. Like, we're too poor to basically have any morals, honestly. Or not to say we can't have any morals.
No, you were right. No, you said it right the first time.
We're too poor to really basically say, okay, we spend on our morals. We need to basically be pragmatic. In order to survive, we have to be pragmatic. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. But he said it right the first time. We're too poor to have morals. And people say, what does that mean, Yvette? Are you saying that we should just be awful people? Listen, this is what I'm saying. And I want to make it clear. Capitalism is vicious. Capitalism is wicked. And everybody else out there who is fighting with you is vicious and wicked. You're not going to get anywhere by extending to them something that they're never willing to extend to you. You don't have a place as the people who are we're economically right now below Latinos and white people. When you're on the bottom, you can't do that. When you're on the bottom, you can't be on the bottom and have the moral high ground. You can't do it. The people who are on the top can have the moral high ground and say, well, let's do something and give something to the poor. We can't do that. We don't have it. He said it right. He tried to clean it up, but he said it right. We're too poor to be that moral. When you're poor, like it's like seeing a dog on the street that needs to eat, or a wolf. He don't be like, well, I can't eat that chicken because that chicken deserves to live. No, I'm gonna eat the chicken. He gonna tear that chicken to bits. And so it's not something that we did. We've been forced into this situation. Like one of the things I want to do, one of the things I pride myself on is having a good relationship with reality. And reality right now, in the richest country in the world, where income inequality is calcified at the very top, is vicious. It is vicious, and they don't care about you, your mama, your kids, or anything. They don't care about anybody. And so in terms of getting resources for ourselves, we don't have a choice but to be vicious. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice but to look out for your own home and your own people and your own community. That's your priority. You don't have a choice to be looking elsewhere. Well, those white people, they poor too. You don't have a choice.
And apparently they're not as poor.
Not as poor. They have $10,000 in wealth and we're negative. That's
Right.
not as
That's
poor.
a poor.
Now, if poor white people want to come together with black people and say, hey, listen, we're gonna wear your shirt and you gotta wear our shirts too.
We can negotiate.
We can negotiate. I negotiate with anybody because that's practical. But I'm not just gonna come to you because I drove by a trailer park one day. That's not how this works.
Right. And
So
we need to
you
do
know-
like people think like, well, I know all black people aren't doing very well, but I personally am doing well. You're setting yourself up for a lonely life,
Show me
man.
a bank account, though.
Okay.
First of all, before you tell me you're doing well, show me a bank account. Because a lot of black people love to tell that lie of I'm doing well. It costs $200,000 to raise a kid. Show me the money. Show me where you got the money to raise that kid. If you don't have that money put away to raise that kid, then you got to set aside the money for the down payment, and or you really should buy the house. And then you got to show me the money that you got set aside to get that kid a college education. That's at least $600,000. Show me the money. If you can't show me the money, and that's one kid, you're not okay.
Yeah, that means
And
you
then-
need a politics.
Yeah, and the data shows the black family has a median wealth of $1,700. You're not doing well. You're just lying to me, and I don't let people lie to me no more.
All right. So, do you want to take one more, or do you want to call
Yeah,
it?
let's take another one.
All right. Anonymous.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are
Yes,
you?
okay, first of all, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
Thank you.
I think that what needs to be done is that we need to understand that these universities need to be protected by the government. And you and the other gentleman who was on, you guys, need to, in my opinion, write papers, make them free, and that's going to help change policy. But most of all, it's going to help people, particularly black people, understand where we are. I'm the person, when I first called in, I said we need to understand who owns these colleges, who owns them, because each college has its own unique, because we're set in a particular state, has its own unique financial makeup and has its own unique problems, and each one is going to have its own unique solutions, although a generalized plan is going to be needed. I think that, like, for instance, people like myself, I will have something to pass on to somebody. I don't have any kids. And instead of, the people say, well, you need to adopt somebody and show them. No, we need to institutionalize what little wealth we have, even though it's small. Yeah. And the reason why is because even if you have kids, institutionalize a portion of it. You may want to give, after you educated your children, give half of it to the child and the other half of it to some institution that's going to perpetuate us.
Yeah.
Particularly black people. Because if that child loses that money, then it will have a method to go and make more money. And that's what we have to do. We have to instill in our children ability to save the little we have, to keep it and grow on it. Or if all else fails, they need to be able to build by themselves if they have to start all over. And then you have people who are proponents of what we are, I love the talk that we had, the dialogue of the different people. We need to find out these proponents. We need to find out who they are. The people who are really stopping this, people up high who are really stopping this, who are they? Let's research these people and find out what their commonalities are, because the idea is that we have to change policy. And as Arnie said, that we have to, he said we have to politicize, but we have to be educated about exactly what we should be doing, why, give the history, and then understand that there's going to be a multitude of different solutions for each college, but it has to be institutionalized where the research and development type businesses are developed, and then we have to perpetuate those institutions. Education is everything. We're being hit on every side, and we have to formulate policies on everything.
Thank you, Colin.
Again, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So
I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate that. I think what she focused on was the importance of institutions, right? black people, for reasons that I don't understand, have gotten on this bandwagon that everything is individual. That is the rugged individualism myth is the myth of white people. That is something that's been propagated by white people, and it's been propagated to even the detriment of working class white people. It is never existed. It's not true. It's a scam. It's a scam to make you feel like it's a scam to make you be conservative. Do you understand when you say we should do for self that you're saying the same thing that Ronald Reagan said? You're saying the same thing that George W. Bush said. You're saying the same. You are Rush Limbaugh. You are Rush Limbaugh. You have to understand that white institutions are designed to withstand certain flare-ups, economic downturns, all of that. They're designed to withstand protests, all of that. These are institutions, though, and the institutions, they undergird white wealth. All of that. So that's what we need. We need black political institutions. We need black communities. We need and HBCUs are part of our institutions. They need money. They need money. And so this is kind of where we are. And we don't understand that we're a group. We're a collective. Like people say, well, who are you, Yvette, to tell so-and-so what to do with their money? Either we're a collective or we're not. If we're a collective, we should get to tell people, like, listen, that was stupid. What'd you do that for? Would you give all that money to that school for instead of an HBCU? What are you doing? You have Dr. Dre that gave a bunch of money to a school. I can't remember the school, but it wasn't an HBCU. And the problem with that is, like, black people made you. You were just some little ragamuffin. You weren't anything. Black people made you in terms of your albums and stuff before you got big. And you went and gave that money somewhere else. We do get to do that. Or if we don't, you can say we're not an institution. And in Breaking Brown, what we're trying to do is be an institution, a political institution. We're trying to make it bigger than a YouTube channel so that we can take the hit. Because if we get more popular, people are going to come at us. They always do. Yeah. They always do.
One lawsuit, if we
came with one lawsuit.
No, like, let's be honest. Like,
where my passport at?
We keep spitting this truth. Someone's going to sue us. We can't take that hit right now.
We can't take that hit, but you got to be able to withstand the hit.
That's what an institution is.
Listen, I always go back to this, and it's not about Gawker, but I always go back to Peter Thiel took out Peter Thiel took out a millionaire. Gawker, he took out Gawker, and the owner of Gawker was a multimillionaire. He took out the magazine and the person. That's what we live in right now. When people shut you down, that's what they do. And so that's what we're trying to do, is build something so, well, we can take the hit. If we need to take the hit, we can take the hit.
That's what an institution's supposed to do.
That's what institutions are supposed to do. Yeah. We need more black institutions that can take a hit. That means money.
And when you can take a hit, that means you can start telling the truth.
Yeah, when you can take a hit, you can tell the truth. Right. To a bunch of people.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
So everybody, I want to thank everybody who called in. I want to apologize to the people that we didn't get to tonight. I had to let when we had the interview, I had to let it keep going because it was so good and it was so powerful. It was so important, and I want to keep this conversation going. You all keep talking. I'm looking at the comments right now. Why y'all ask strange questions? Anyway, I'm looking at comments right now and keep commenting on Facebook. Eventually, I think we're going to move this over to Breaking Brown too, so we can have a forum so that we can keep sometimes what happens is that we have a conversation on YouTube and we can't really, YouTube is kind of a place that doesn't allow for the kind of, discourse that we need. So I think eventually we're going to, as I said before, we're going to put a forum up on Breaking Brown. We still got coming the newsletter I told you about, interns working on that. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, which I think is going to be beneficial in terms of, us working together and providing a political education to people. So,
I have one question. So the people, if they learned one thing from this video, I think it would be that Trump's executive order gave us a potential for access. It wasn't money. It wasn't guaranteed money. And that's always going to be the end game for people at Breaking Brown, money in black communities. But it was access, and that's nothing because it moved HBCU concerns from the Department of Education to the executive office. Is that right?
Exactly. I think you're right.
All right.
I think right. And I'm going to get some Be Vicious t-shirts. I'm going to start selling Be Vicious t-shirts. Wow. No, we can't want nobody finna play with you. Ain't no puppies around here. Wolves, that's it. So,
all right. Take care.
So, thanks everybody. We'll see you next Monday. Remember, Monday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when we're here. I appreciate it, and I want to thank our guests and everything. It was great. I appreciate it. It was a wonderful